Good morning, everyone. I'm Cynthia for Artbeads Cafe, and this is our second live Artbeads Cafe. We're very excited, and Cheri is with me again today. So we are super excited to do these live videos because we can hear your comment, you can ask us questions, so that's why it's so interesting for us. We love hearing what you're saying, we love your questions, and so don't hesitate. And behind the camera is it's Becky, sorry.
Hello,
and Becky will read your comments and your questions.
Christine says, hi ladies, and Anne says, good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Sylvia says, hello from chilly Omaha.
Ooh. It's always fun to hear where people come from, especially places we don't know. Yes.
And chili.
Yes. So today we're very excited, especially Cheri.
I am really excited because Cynthia's going to show me a technique that I haven't really tried yet.
Right.
I won't give it away.
Yes. So, so what I love to make is bracelets with a freeform brick stitch. And every time I wear them, we have people asking, how do you make those? The technique is not that difficult, but we thought let's do a video, show you how to make them. There is a little of tip and process here and there.
Right.
And Cheri has some questions too, so we thought,
how do you do that?
So first let me show you what is a freeform brick stitch bracelet. So there it is. So the technique is brick stitch, and then you put several different type of beads, and I really don't have a plan when I do this. I just go as I want and as I feel it. So here I put some crystal. You see it's little wavy. This one is more straight because I use beads that kind of all have the same size, and then the same for this one. On this one I use some crystal again and some bugle beads, so it gives this really fun wavy design. The same for this white one. You see how much I love that technique because I've been making them.
Sandra says she loves the buttons on these.
Yes, those buttons are glass buttons. They're really beautiful. So this is another freeform here. And then Becky, you made this one.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Isn't that gorgeous?
So you made it as a pendant. Love, love, love this.
So
is it on our side?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So all gold, but just the mix up with the different bead shapes.
Yes.
This is so pretty.
It is really beautiful. So where do we start? So first, let me tell you that I'm going to show you how to start. I'm going to show you how to make several rows, and then I'm going to show you how to add a thread because it can be tricky on that technique, and then I will show you how to attach the button and to make the loop on the other side. So you should know everything by the end of this video to make a bracelet on your own. We picked up some beads. Cheri has a beautiful set of colors here. You went with gold and turquoise.
Isn't that beautiful? A little bronzy.
Right.
Yeah, I just love this.
There's a
little
fire
play of
polish,
color
right?
in there. Yeah, this is the button. Let's see. There we go. This is the button I picked, and kind of went from there. I mean, I sort of had this palette already, and then went looking for a button. Then found this one, and then kind of fine-tuned it.
Okay.
To
beautiful.
match. Yeah,
Yes.
love that. And your beads really pretty
Yes,
too.
so I went with a purple, and so I have some fire polish too here. I have some, those are 3mm bugle beads. I think they work the best. And then I have some 8/0, and then some 11/0 Toho beads, and the fire polish are 3mm. So that's a good start here. You don't want to go crazy with colors because then you're going to be overwhelmed with colors. So just choose a palette that works together. And then I'm going to be using a Fireline, and I prefer to use Fireline than a beading thread because it's stiffer and stronger, and those you really want your beads to hold together, if I can say so, and be tight. And the Fireline is great for that, and I'm using the Fireline 8 pound And then I'm using also bead along needles. And the reason why I like those is because they are really hard. And especially when you go through the bugle beads like that, you want a needle that is pretty hard and won't bend easily.
Nice and straight. It
Yes.
stays nice and straight.
Yes, so those are really great. So let's start.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Anne likes your color choices.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
So
That's
pretty.
beautiful. I love this. Yes, I love this blend also.
And then Katie, we're using a new microphone. She said it is a little bit softer than normal, so
Okay.
just talk loud.
Okay. Let us know if you cannot hear clearly, and we try to talk louder. I know that my voice can be really soft sometimes. So first, what I need to do is a ladder stitch. So big key is coming behind my shoulder, like that you will see better. And I don't like to take, the length of my thread. I don't like it too long. You, Cheri, you use.
I use a pretty long thread usually, maybe
Right.
even a couple yards. But
Okay.
I'm not today. I didn't want to keep bumping into you.
So I'm just
some
gonna
arm action.
So I'm just gonna use a yard for now, and there is a trick with the fire line. It's pretty. Sometimes it can be hard to thread it on your needle. So what I'm doing right now, I'm kind of right,
mhm.
the end of it. Usually I do with my teeth, but not in
Mhm.
front of you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I use my teeth too.
you do that.
Yeah.
So I like to put the thread on my. Okay. There's that. Like that here. So I'm pulling. So I like to just rest my thread on my index, and then I bring the needle to my thread. I don't bring the thread to the needle. I always think it's easier this way. So I'm pushing my needle on my finger, and I hope you can see that. So I'm pushing on my finger, and then I just slide the needle on the thread. Let's see. Yes, and now I can see the thread is coming out, so then I can just pull with my thumb like that. So that's one way that I do it, because fire line, like I said, can be tricky to thread. So when we start, and Cheri was asking, how do you pick up which beads you're going to work with? How do you do that? So for the start, I like to start with some bead. They are pretty uniform, like those Toho 8 arts. You don't want to start with small bead, start with bigger beads.
Okay.
And you have to think also, when you're gonna sew your button, you don't want any bead that's gonna be difficult to sew your button on. Let me show you this one, for example. So I started here with the crystal, so there is no way I can sew my button here. So that's why I did some row with pretty uniform beads, and then it's easy to sew my button on those beads.
Okay, so a little tighter weave. Don't bring out the fancy stuff yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
So at the beginning you don't have fun. No, I'm kidding. So I'm gonna start with the ladder stitch, and the ladder stitch is this little stitch here. And what it does is making the base for the break stitch. So if you know that, I'm sorry, but if you don't know, it's pretty easy. So you start with 2 beads, and I bring down to my thread. So this is just for showing you, but if I was starting a bracelet, I will leave a good length on my thread, because I will use that thread to sew a button. So I have my 2 beads like that. My tail is here on my left hand, so I'm going back through the 2 beads. Okay, so my tail is here. This is where my needle is here, so I'm going back through those 2 beads.
Kimberly says hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Kimberly. And then you see how the beads are sitting this way. I want them to be horizontal, so I'm kind of moving them with my fingers, and I like to tie it. So now it looks this way. So now I'm starting to add my beads. I'm taking a bead, so one at a time. My thread is going down, so I'm making a loop, and I'm going on the top of the bead. There we go. And now I need to get ready to add the next bead, which means I need to go through that bead. So my thread is down, I'm going up.
Jenny says, hello, ladies.
Hello.
And Marietta says, thank you so much for your clear instructions, Cynthia.
Oh,
Yay.
if you don't understand something that I'm saying, please let us know. We can always, Becky will let me know. And if we don't see your question or your comment, then Becky and Katie will go back to it and we can answer to you again. So now my thread is on the top. I'm making a loop. So I go at the bottom of the bead.
Rhonda says hello from Walt Disney World.
Oh,
wow.
wow. It's fun. Okay, so I need to get ready to add another bead, and my thread is coming out of this bead, so it needs to come out on that bead. So I'm going to go inside from the top. So I hope you can see the pattern now. You're kind of making a loop like that. Now I need to bring my thread inside that bead to get ready to add another bead. And I'm making the loop this way. And you want to have, I will say, at least 8 beads to start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 7. Do you have 8, Cheri? You have 8.
I have 8.
Okay. I think this is my last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can stop at, let's see. I can do 8. Like that. And now my thread is here. I want to be here on the top, so I go this way. There we go. So this is the ladder stitch. Now I want to start the break stitch. So I want my thread to be on top. So I'm just flipping my work. And now I have my thread on the top.
Okie dokie.
Anne's asking, will this be posted later? She has to go, but really wants to see everything.
Yes, it will be posted on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. So you can see it later. So now I want to start, and I'm thinking, let's see, I'm going to get some of those beautiful lavender beads. So when you start break stitch, you have to start with 2 beads. And break stitch, when you add your bead, you have to go under the thread in between the bead. Okay, so you have to choose. You can choose. How can I say that? In break stitch, you have increase. Yes, increase and decrease. If you increase, you go under the thread that is right after the first bead. If you decrease, you go under the thread on the second bead. So what does that mean? Let me show you on my bracelet, on this one, for example. In here, let's see, here that was my stitch. I decrease, so the bead after is inside, in the inside.
It just sort of sets in
Yes.
from the edge.
And here I increase, so the bead is on the outside. So you're going to play with that, and this is why I think it's really fun.
Okay.
So,
Rita says your ring is so beautiful.
oh, thank you. This is, I think it's on, is it on the site? I think so.
If not that one, something similar in the different colors.
Yes. Okay, so I'm thinking right now I want to increase. So I'm going to go, you see that thread here? I hope you can see it.
Yes.
That's okay. So I'm going to go through that thread and bring those 2 beads. Okay. And then I'm going to go in that first bead and in the other bead, because I like them to be secure. And then I'm gonna go, oopsie, through that bead again, through that bead and the second one. So what I'm doing right now is just making sure that those beads are straight and secure, and then my thread needs to be on that bead. So I'm gonna go in the first one, and then in the second one here. Okay, so this is just the beginning. After that, you don't have to go through so many beads, but I just wanted those to be secure and to be tight. So now I'm gonna keep going. So this is a brick stitch. I'm picking up this time just one bead, and I'm going under the thread. So I have my second bead here, and I'm going under the thread of the second bead this way. And Cheri, you know how to do all of this.
So far.
Okay. So then I need to go through the bead, and this is the brick stitch. You just keep going. So this is my bead here, and I'm gonna go in between the thread and go up in the bead, picking up another bead. So I'm going, and you know, it's the beginning, so it's always a little hard. I'm going in that thread here, under that thread. Oops. Is that clear for everyone, Becky? Is that okay?
I think so.
Okay.
Let us know if you guys have any questions.
And then I'm going in that bead that I just put in, and I like to tie it, so I put on my thread, you know, once in a while. Look at everything is getting tightened up.
So each time, yeah, just kind of tighten as you go.
Yes.
Keep your tension.
So I'm going under that thread and then back up in the bead.
Mariette is asking, is brick stitch always done on top of ladder stitch?
I think so.
I think for the most part, yes.
Yes, I won't say always, because I maybe someone else do it differently, so I don't want to say this is the only way to do it. But I learned how to do with a ladder stitch, and it works really well for me, so that's the way I keep doing. But you might find someone else doing a different way.
And Lynn says these are the clearest instructions I've seen for a brick stitch.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Please let me know if you don't understand. And I know I have an accent that sometimes is difficult for people to understand. And sometimes I don't find the right word, so hopefully you can understand. So now I'm at the end here. And remember, I did an increase, which means the first bead, it's coming out, it's out, but this one, if you look at it, it's in. So I want that last bead to be outside too.
Linda says you can also add brick stitch to the side of peyote, as in making a ruffle.
Oh,
that's
true. Yeah. Yes, that's great. So what I'm doing now, I want to add a next bead here. So to make it this easy, I'm just gonna flip my work, and you have the tail here. So I'm just gonna put the tail under my finger, and to add another bead. So this is the increase on the other side again, because I want that last bead to be out here. You're gonna go inside through here. So you have the one bead, the second bead, and I'm gonna go through that, under that bead, and I can see my thread is right there. So I'm pulling here, and then like I did before, I'm going back inside the bead. Oops, sorry, Becky.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay.
And like I say, sometimes I really like things to be tight. So what I do a lot of time is, you don't have to do it, but I do it anyway. I go back in the second bead, and then I go in that first bead. I just like things to be tight and secure, like that. And then remember, I need to be back, I need to be back on that bead, sorry. So I'm going inside here. So my thread always have to be on the first bead, going up the first bead.
Okay.
Cheri, how you doing? You have your
Yep,
2 rows?
we're good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do several rows, like maybe 2 more.
Okay.
And you can decide, are you gonna go increasing? So that means your bracelet's gonna go this way,
Just keep getting
or
wider.
do you want
Okay.
to decrease? And
Okay.
usually what I do is I'm gonna decrease.
Yeah, that makes sense for my
For-
particular bead choices
Yes.
too. Okay.
So to decrease, I'm gonna show you. So you grab, at the beginning of brick stitch, you always have 2 beads. And to decrease, instead of going the first, let me show you. So for increasing, we went here after the first bead, but this time we're going after the second bead. So 1, 2, and I have my thread here, and I'm going through that bead. And then you have to go back in the bead you just added. And you see that that bead is not straight, so I like to make it straighter, so that's why I'm gonna go back inside this one, and then I'm going through. So let me go back inside this and show you the next step. And then I'm going inside this one here to make it straighter. And you have to play with your bead also. And then I'm going back in the first bead, because this is where you go, your thread has to go,
Okay.
like that.
So I
Makes
do
sense?
that a little differently.
How do you do it,
Yeah.
Cheri?
And I've already done it here, but I can kind of move
Yes.
over here. So you put the 2 beads that you hook under the one that
Mhm.
you want, and then you end up with the 2 beads. But like you said, they are kind of angled.
Yes.
So I go up through that bead
Yes,
and down through this
Right.
bead, but then I come over
right.
and just go right up through that bead again, which cinches those 2 together without going down into those 2 beads.
Okay.
So either way
Next time let's do
Yeah.
like Cheri does,
works. The object is just to get the beads
straight.
straight and where
Yes.
you want them. So
Yes.
that's why, all these techniques are, sometimes one technique works better, especially once you start doing other beads,
Mhm.
right? Adding different types of beads and stuff. So,
Exactly.
okay, cool.
So now you keep going like you did for the others. So I pick up 1 bead and I go under this thread here of the next bead, and then go back inside that bead. Let me see. Oops. Like that. And I like to tight everything again.
Oh, Margaret says she's seen that thread you go under when you're making the brick stitch referred to as a thread bridge.
A thread
Yay.
bridge, that's a
Good
good
term.
idea, yes. Okay, so you pick up your bead and you go under the thread bridge, this one here,
Mm.
and then up inside the bead, the next thread bridge.
So we're kind of traveling, which is fun. On the bridges,
Yes.
right?
And then the next one, and then you go faster and faster.
Mm.
I'm gonna pick up another bead.
Margaret's asking, is tension of thread important?
It is, especially for this, because you're gonna be using so many different type of beads. So that's why I tend to tight like that. I'm really pulling on it, and I want everything, like here it's not super straight, but I want to pull it tight. And that's why I'm using also the fire line, because the tension is really great with the fire line. now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use those beads. So I did decrease here, increase. I think I'm gonna do another increase. Otherwise, if I do a decrease, it's gonna be here, and then I'm gonna end up with really small row of beads here. So let's do an increase again.
And same type of or bead size, kind
Yes.
of. Okay.
Yes. So you pick up 2 beads, you go under to increase, you go under the first thread bridge, line up your bead like that, and then you go up on the second bead. And Cheri, you said you go.
Then I go down just through the bead in the new row,
Okay.
and then up through that its companion bead.
Ah,
So
you
I-
just. Oh yeah. Okay, you just do that.
Yeah.
Okay, it is easier. So now I'm gonna go and to finish my row. So you go under the next thread bridge, go back on the bead, and then after this row, I'm gonna start adding. Oh, I can see my thread here. I'm gonna start adding some other bead. And this is where the fun starts.
And gets a little tricky, I think. Right?
It's a little trickier, but it is really fun suddenly to add some other
Okay.
bead.
Jenny's asking, do you need to increase, decrease for each row? Can you just make each row
No.
even to the one underneath?
It's you cannot with break stitch.
Yeah, you do have to do some increase, decrease. You don't have
Yes.
to do it alternating exactly every single time. But if you don't, you'll end up with, you'll come to a point.
Yes.
It'll just get so small that you can't make a bracelet anymore. So you have to maintain, increase, decrease to maintain that width of bead.
Right, yes. So remember, I increase here, so I need to increase on the other side. So to do it easily, I just turn my work, grabbing my bead, and I go, make sure that you can see the thread here, and you go under the thread. Otherwise, your bead won't be secure. And then I go back on this bead, and I tie it like that. Sorry. So now let's see. I have some bugle beads, I have some fire polish, and I want to see what else do I want to make. So let's start with the bugle beads because I think they're really fun.
Oh, good.
And as you can see here on the bugle beads, I have a smaller size bead because I have like 8/0 here. The bugle beads are 3 millimeters, so they are smaller. So you need a smaller bead at the base. So you're going to be adding at the same time as the bugle bead, you're going to be adding those teeny beads here.
Oh, together.
Yes.
Okay, the 2 beads together.
Yes.
Okay.
So there is a little trick to do the start. So I'm picking up one. This is a 11/0 bead, and then a bugle bead, and then another 11/0. Okay, so Cheri, I have the first segment like that.
So 11/0 bugle bead.
Yes,
Okay,
and then
and then another one. Okay.
11. And then you pick up another 11/0,
Oh. Okay.
another bugle bead,
Oh. look
and
at
then
that.
another 11.
There we go.
Okay, and then what I do, I'm gonna go on the first bead thread, under the first bead thread, sorry.
So we're increasing.
Yes.
Okay.
And you see how my beads are lining up here?
Cute.
So I'm just gonna separate this a little because I want, you're starting with 2 right away. So I want them to separate a little. And then I'm going back inside. Oops, this is where it's getting a little tricky. So I need to go back inside the first seed bead. Here. And then the bugle bead. And then the other seed bead. So now they start to line up nicely.
Judy says
I'm
the
putting
smaller
it.
bead also stops your thread from fraying in the sharp bugle bead.
Oh,
Good.
yes. So I'm pulling, but I don't want to pull too tight because I don't want those two seed beads to kind of, tight together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull a little on the thread, and I want to make those seed bead not as close. So at the beginning it's a little tricky,
Oh, I see what
like
you mean.
everything.
Right. Okay.
So that should be good. So then, sorry, I have two. Yes. No, it's still a little too tight, so I want a little more space. There we go. Are you okay, Cheri?
I think so. I see what you mean, where these two want to kind of pull together.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So that means
So I
you
want to kind of loosen this up a little.
exactly, and you can pull with your
Mhm.
nails like that.
Okay.
It's okay.
So they're a little there,
Yes.
like that.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then you want to do like, the next you pick up just one bead, but one bead here means a seed bead, a bugle bead, and a seed bead. This is one bead. So I'm going to do that. I'm picking up my seed bead, my bugle bead, and my seed bead. And I'm going to go under the next bead thread. No, thread bridge.
Thread bridge. Yay.
Thread
Great
bridge.
turn.
Like that.
And
Again,
not
Not too
Not too
tight.
tight.
Exactly.
okay.
Judy wants to know if you could use a 15-aught seed bead.
Did I do that? You could, but it will be very, very small. I mean, if let's say that you work with just 11 art and you want to do something else here with the, then you can use the 15. But here, because those are 8 art, I choose the smaller size after that, and then it sits really well on the on those 8 art beads. So this is, so you keep doing that. You take a seed bead,
Okay.
a bugle bead, a seed bead, because this is one bead, and I'm gonna go under the next thread bridge here. And then go back inside the seed bead, the bugle bead, and the seed bead. What I like to do also is hold with my thumb like that.
Mm-hmm.
I hold everything together with my thumb and I title just a little.
I just did that as you were saying it, and it makes a difference.
It works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can see here I did it too tight, but it's okay. Let's keep moving.
Okay.
Yolanda says, "Good morning, I'm late to class."
Oh, good. You can
Good
go back
morning.
and watch it after the beginning. Right now we're just adding some fun bead to this Freeform brick stitch bracelet. Like that. So you see what I need, long needles also and pretty hard needles, because it hold the beads together. And then I keep going with my seed bead, bugle bead, seed bead, and the next thread bridge. And I'm holding here. And then I tied a little. And as you can see, the way how I'm working, and everyone has a different way of working, but I like holding my work in my hand, and I like my fingers to kind of be the support. And like that. So you see everything is on my
Oops.
finger. Did you lose some
I
bead?
did. I missed something. I think I missed the thread bridge, and
Go.
my beads all fell off.
And then keep going. And then adding thread. So with my thumb, I kind of push on it and I pull. And doing this last one.
Kimberly says, "This will be one I'll be rewatching over and over." For sure.
Yay.
Yes, it takes a while. I Maybe that's why I made so many bracelets, because I really wanted the technique, kind of not think about it and just do it. Okay, and then I'm gonna turn, isn't it? I'm gonna turn my work.
I'm not there yet.
And then I'm gonna add another one at the end, since I'm kind of did an increase here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go under here, under my thread, and then back inside. Like that. Okay. What I'm seeing here is I don't have a lot of thread, so this is the moment where you panic a little and say, oh, what do I do next? So next, you want to secure those bugle beads. So you're gonna do some rows of 8 arts, and I usually do 2. Here I did more because I just wanted to have a nice design, but I do at least 1 or 2 to secure the bugle beads before I add some other fun bead. So what I'm gonna do now, let's see, I did here I did gold. I think I want gold on the other side
Lisa
too.
says you make it look so easy.
You know, I know it's at the beginning it's kind of look strange, but it will be easy after a while. So on this one, I pick up my 2 beads and I'm gonna go under the first thread bridge.
Wynn wants to know how much thread do you recommend starting with?
I would say like 2 yards, yes. Especially when you start, you don't really know at the beginning. So I just went under my thread, going, I think that's enough, yes, it holds pretty well. And then I'm picking up my other 8 odd beads and I'm going under here the next thread bridge. Are you okay, Cheri?
Yeah.
I'm going. Oh, nice.
I was
nice,
just
nice.
thinking, you know, I think we both started with 1 yard roughly, 1
Yes.
wingspan, and we're running out already.
Yes, we are.
So 2 yards, if you don't mind the extra length, will get you a little further.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you see here how it was really tight, so I'm having I have to really look at where is my thread. But after this row, I can show you how to add a new thread. So you just go like I showed you before, just with normal beads. You just add your bead and tight. This time now you can tight and make things more level. That. You see, I went too tight here, but I know the thread is right there. So your bracelet's gonna be wavy and it's gonna have, I mean, I like the wave on the side, but if you want something more straight, then just use beads at the same shape.
Margaret wants to know what other beads can you use?
Well, later I'm gonna use the fire polish, and Cheri will use her crystal. So we can show you that.
Crystal and
okay, so there we go. And let's see, so I'm checking here. I see that this bead is out, which means I need to increase here to add another bead. So again, I'm gonna flip my work and I'm gonna grab 2 beads and I'm gonna start here. To increase, you start at the first thread bridge. To decrease, you start at the second. So oh, sorry, what am I doing? I need to put a bead here. I went to the next row, sorry.
Got ahead of yourself.
Yes, I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna go and that bead, and I know my thread is somewhere there, and then back to this one, and I tied. Oops, I think my thread went under the seed bead instead. You see how it's going this way? So I went under the wrong thread, so I'm going to take this out and I need to do that again. The beauty of this technique also, it's really easy to take beads out and to do it again. Okay, so I need to.
I've had people ask before in doing brick stitch when they add some beads and then they go back up through that first bead,
Right.
or the beads that they just added, their beads fall off.
Right.
And the reason that is because you've also gone back under your thread bridge without realizing it.
Yes.
So you need to make sure that when you go back through those beads that you are going around that thread bridge thread.
Yes.
Right? I did that a few minutes ago, and I'm like, oh, that's right. I remember somebody asking me that before. So,
So you
we'll
lost
share our
your
mistakes.
Okay. So, Becky, sorry, I'm going to have you come back in here. What I want to show, and I'm hoping you can see, is the mistake that I make. I can see my thread here. And I went inside, I went too far inside the seed bead. So that's why my seed bead got caught up. So now I know my thread bridge is right here. And that should fix the problem that I had before. And then I go up inside that bead. And really, like Cheri said, it's when you start making things, then you realize, oh, okay, I understand now what you were saying, and I think you have to do it first, and then you will see. So you see how now my bracelet kind of go a little further. So for the next bead, I'm gonna decrease, and I want to use these, and I'm gonna show you how to add a thread, because I'm running out of thread actually.
Too good. I'm glad you said that.
So I have my 2 bead here, and I'm decreasing, which means I'm going on the second. After the second bead and the thread, going up here. And this bead is not straight, so I want to make it straighter. I'm going back inside that bead. And like Cheri said before, I'm just going back inside this one here, and then you kind of play with your finger and you tight there. Then I'm gonna add another bead, and pretty soon I'm gonna stop and show you how to add a thread. Okay.
Katie's saying, make sure to speak up.
Oh, sorry, you cannot hear me anymore. Okay. Okay, so now I'm added that, and my thread is really short, so I'm just gonna add a new one. I'm leaving my thread here. Doesn't bother me for now.
Joanne wants to know, how long does it take to make a full bracelet?
How long? My husband always say that I work really fast, so I will say maybe
I think you do.
2 hours.
Okay.
Maybe 2 to 3 hours. There will be time when you add your bead and you realize, oh, it doesn't work, it doesn't look good, especially when you're gonna start adding some fire polish or some crystal, and sometimes you will see, oh, that doesn't work, I don't like the look of it, so you're gonna take it apart and do it again. I would say it takes me a good 2 hours to do it. So if you started, I would say 2 to 3 hours.
Katie says that depends on the person. It would take me longer than 2 hours.
I can't.
Yeah, and I'm a little slower, I think. Well, I was trying to measure this. Like, how long did this take us? We've been talking and
It's about
doing
the
stuff,
45 minutes, I would
yeah,
say, to
so
do
we need
this.
how many more of those?
Right.
Jimmy wants to
So,
know
yeah,
what's a good place
2 to
to
4.
start or end and add thread, like in the middle of the row or at the end of the row, or doesn't matter?
Okay, so in any bead weaving that I do, when I add a new thread, it's always in the middle of the row. I don't like doing at the end or at the beginning, because
agree.
I don't do knots. I weave inside my work, and doing at the beginning or at the end is not, for me, it's not a good thing. So I always prefer to start in the middle. You do that too, Cheri?
I do. I think it's also easier to find out where you see where you left off also. Now in this
Yes.
case we're leaving our end thread in there so we know,
Yes.
but sometimes you don't. And if you're in the middle of a row, you know, oh, okay, that's obviously where I
Right.
left off. But if you're at the end, it's like, well, was I on this edge or was I on this edge?
Yes.
So yeah, middle
Cheri,
of the
can
row.
I grab your
Yeah.
work? I want to
Mhm.
show you what Cheri did. Look at that. Is that pretty? So hers is lining up a different way. So it really goes differently. You know, what kind of beads you choose and how you
Mhm.
do it. But
Mhm.
I just love it.
Thank you.
So what I do to add a new thread, like I say, I weave, I don't do knots, so I keep weaving in my bead. And because here I've got the bugle beads, I'm gonna start with my row of 8 out beads here. And I know I want to end up, I want my thread to go out on that bead. So I'm thinking I'm gonna start somewhere here because I'm gonna be weaving this way up like that. So I'm gonna start on this bead and then what I'm gonna do is go to the next bead and I want to secure sorry, I want to secure my thread, so I want my thread to be in, you see how I did, I'm going inside those 2 beads. That means that I'm going to secure my thread and my thread shouldn't slide when I put on it. So you see my thread is secure there. Oh, yeah. And then I'm going in that bead. And if you feel like, oh, I'm not sure if my thread is really secure, you see it's moving. Remember that the fire line is also a little wax, so it tends to slide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going in this bead and then now if I pull on my thread, it's not moving at all. So I can go back up. So and then I'm going back up. Remember, I want to end up here, so I'm gonna go this way. So I'm going in that gold bead. Oops, sorry, just knocked the camera. And then in the seed bead, the bugle bead, and the seed bead, like that. And then in that gold bead, so I could go in that one or that one, doesn't matter. But I'm gonna go in this one and then in my last bead. So you see it's not that difficult. The main thing is start few beads here, weave, pull on your thread. If you see that it's sliding, go back inside a bead, go back up, you pull on your thread and it's still moving, so go in that bead and go inside and go back up. So you're kind of secure the thread inside the beads like that. Mm-hmm. And then I've got my new thread and I can easily start my new row.
And excuse me, and something to keep in mind as you're doing that kind of circling and weaving around to add and tie off, we'll do that with tying off too.
Right.
A new thread is to stay away from your outside edges and maybe the ends where you're going to be sewing on a button and or doing some extra work. Save those areas for thread, more thread to go through, and weave more into the center of your bracelet where you're probably not going to be adding more thread.
Right. So now I want to show you how to add a fire polish. And Cheri, I'm going faster.
Okay.
And here I decrease, so I don't need to add. You see how my first bead is inside. I mean, I decreased, so I don't need to add another bead. Oh, do you see my bead that just fell? Is because I didn't go under my thread. So what we mean ouch. So you go under your thread here and then you go back in your bead. So your thread is down here, and like Cheri said, you circle right?
Mm-hmm.
You circle your thread. What I did is I brought my bead back under the thread, and then it kind of let my bead go. Does that make sense? Sometimes.
Yeah, yes.
So you have the thread bridge here, and you want to go around it.
If you don't grab onto the thread bridge, you're basically just unstringing your seed bead.
Exactly. So now I have this thread here. I'm not gonna bother that, but I will show you later how to what to do with that. No, actually, I should show you now, because when I'm gonna build my beads here, I won't see the thread. So it's really easy. You're just gonna weave this thread in the beads also, and something that I do a lot also, I always have 2 needles with me. One needle that is the working needle, and the other needle is for doing things like that. Another tip also, my needle is really long and my thread is really short. And when I see my short thread like that, and I know I'm gonna go through beads, sometimes the needle is too long, so you can use a shorter needle to weave your thread. It will be easier. So now I'm just gonna go back inside a bead, and I go back. So what I want to do is just secure that thread, and now I'm just gonna go back inside the bugle bead, set like that. And then you see how my needle is too long now. I'm kind of pulling on my thread and I cannot go inside my bead. That's why I'm saying you can use a shorter needle.
Mm-hmm. You can even take the, let's see, how do I do it sometimes? Because I've run into that.
Uh-huh.
You can even, I think it's you take the needle off and get the needle part way through where it needs to go, and then put the thread back in.
So now I'm just gonna go in this one, and then I'm gonna go back in this one, and my thread is secure. There is no way that the thread's gonna untie. So now you can just cut it, and that's it. So I love weaving thread like that instead of making knots, because I'm never sure about the knot. It always scares me, but I know that a thread will be secure in there. So I'm gonna add, weaving a thread will be more secure. Okay, I hope it's clear for everyone so far. And now I'm gonna add those fire polish. It's exactly the same as I did here for the bugle beads. And I'm thinking, okay, so you need to, let's see. I think in general, yes, I'm using another 11 art beads. Okay. So I'm taking an 11 art bead, a fire polish, 11 art, and like I did before with the bugle beads, I'm taking again another 11 art.
Okay,
yes.
Second set, okay.
Remember that segment here, like that, it's 1 bead. And at the beginning of a brick stitch, we always need 2 beads. So this is 1 bead and this is another bead. And then I'm going under the first thread bridge, and you kind of line up like that, and then I'm going back inside the seed bead, the fire polish, the seed bead, and I hold everything with my thumb. It's easier. Pull my thread there, and I want a space here, right, because I don't want it to be too tight. So I'm going 1 seed bead, 1 fire polish, and another seed bead, and I do the same. I'm going under the next thread bridge, going back. I love mixing different type of beads. Different type of beads like that.
And so I have a question.
Yes.
I have these little delicas here. They're 11 aught, but they are smaller than a round seed bead.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be too much of a size difference?
I don't think so. Try.
Okay.
You have to try first and
Okay.
see, but I don't think so.
Okay, cool. And did you increase? Did you increase?
I didn't,
You did not increase. Okay.
because those are pretty big bead.
Okay.
I think I forgot. Yes, I did forgot a seed bead here. So I'm gonna take this out. Can it go out easily? I hope so. And yes, I forgot a seed bead here. Go back down. And then it does. So you just keep going like that. And then the next row will be another row of those 8 art seed bead.
Okay, so here's a new question.
Yes.
So I've got a bit of a space here. I've added my 2 seed beads, I hooked my bridge, I went up through this group,
Mm-hmm.
and now I need to come down this group. And then what I would typically do is cross my thread over here and go back up here.
Right.
Is that what you did this time,
No,
or did you
you
went down
don't.
into this bead?
Actually, you don't need to go back down. With those, when I start with those big bead, I just do once. So you came out here
Mm-hmm.
and keep going.
So
But
don't
it's
come
funny
back.
that you have.
Oops.
I think you didn't go. I'm sorry. So you asked me if I was decreasing or increasing.
Mhm.
You actually increase. So
Okay.
instead of going on the second bridge, thread bridge, here you go in the first one.
Okay, so increase.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, because that's what's giving me this
Yes.
gap.
This gap.
Okay.
Yes, you don't want a gap, so you go through the
Okay,
first
okay.
one.
See, little tricks to this.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely.
And I didn't think it was increasing because when you look at it, it doesn't look like it's increasing that much.
Right, right.
Okay. And then I'm just going to show you how to do the next row, and then I will show you how to finish with a button and a loop. So remember, here at the top, you don't want to be too tight. You see how the space I leave because I don't tighten my thread too much. And that is because you want to be able to add your next row on the top of it. Okay. Like I said, this is the part that I really like because you add some fun bead, and then you never know what's gonna come up. You never know what kind of design you're gonna have. And then there, and then oops, I love this fire polish. It's such a beautiful.
Aren't they pretty?
Yes.
I was just admiring mine too.
Margaret wants to know if you could use 2 whole beads.
I was wondering too. I didn't try yet, but that's something I really want to try. I'm not sure. I think it would be fun too. Now I'm looking. So I started with the increase, but when I look all of that, I'm thinking, oh, I really like how it sits. I don't really want a next bead here, so I'm gonna just stay like that. And now I'm gonna do the next row. So I'm picking up 2 beads and I go inside the first one, under the first thread bridge, and it's exactly the same way as I did with the bugle beads.
Margaret says, looking beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
This is fun.
Isn't it? Yes, Cheri is not talking anymore. She's focusing here. Like I said, it is a free form, so you don't know. Don't think about how I'm gonna start it. What kind of design I want. It's a free form.
Just pick some pretty beads.
Pick some pretty beads, different type, and then just go with it. So you see how I can keep going like that. So I did here with some fire polish. This is a bracelet that I did with some crystal. And here the crystal has 4 millimeters. The fire polish that I use here, they are 3 millimeters. So I don't know if you can see, but the crystal are kind of tied together, so they tend to be a little bumpier. But that's fine. I mean, it's really the look. You have to think about the look that you want. Do you want something smooth? Do you want something wavy and funky? And it's really your style, your design. So all those 4 millimeters, they tend to be tight, but that didn't bother me at all. And I really like that design. Like I said, if you want something more straight, this one is really straight. I did some increase, decrease, increase, decrease, and the beads are kind of the same type, so it's really uniform.
Carol's asking, can you use the peyote stitch for a bracelet like this one?
I'm not sure. I'm really
There
not
is Freeform
sure.
peyote, but it's different.
It's different. It's
yeah.
really different. Yes. On this one, I think that was my first one that I made ever. You see those 4 millimeters crystal again? They're kind of bumpy. And tell you something also. Sometimes I feel like, okay, is this too close together? So instead of going under the next bridge, the next thread, I leave a space and I go to the next one. So you can play like that. You don't have to have them side by side, but you can leave a little space also.
Okay, you can skip.
You can skip if you want, yes. So, and then I did this one, and I realized I made a mistake. So what happened is I started here. Is that the way I started? Yes. I think I started here. I went this way, and suddenly I didn't realize I was increasing. So this would have been great to keep increasing, but when I put on my hand, I realized, oh, okay, I will, I need a little more to finish. So will I be ending up with a lot in here, or do I want to make it narrower? So those are the type of things you just have to think. And it was getting really big, and I realized, oh, it's getting way too big. So I started to decrease here.
I think that's what I like about that bracelet, is that in and out and the different widths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I could have increased a little more here again, but I keep decreasing, and then I realized I really have to think about the button here and my loop, so I didn't want it to be too wide here, otherwise I would have ended up with a big button and I had only a small button. So that's why I went increase here, and then I went decrease. But like I said, you could go increase, decrease, increase a little, decrease. I mean, you can really play with that. So I'm going to show you how to add a loop and a button. So we're going to start with the button, and I choose this really pretty gold button. I think it will be really nice. And here I have more space to work because I have a lot of rows. In here I don't have that many rows, and I have the bugle beads, so I prefer to put my button here. Do we have a question, Becky? Oh.
Dorian wants to know, when you skip beads to allow for a bigger bead, how do you manage the other side of the big bead to get back to the right number of smaller beads on the other side? I don't think we're skipping beads.
We're just skipping over. You mean like Cynthia said, when you put, like, I think you would, if you're going to skip, ideally you would maybe skip evenly.
Yes, so
Right.
here is what Cheri is doing right now. So she's putting some fire polish, and she did after every each thread bridge.
Mhm.
But sometime when my bead is too small, I'm going this way here. So when you go on the top, then you're gonna have a bead cap too. So you're just skipping here. You don't skip a bead, but you're gonna have a bead cap, a bead gap. Sorry.
Mhm.
So then when you add your next row, yes, you will see a better gap. So that's why I will choose a big bead, like an 8/0 right away, and it might take you a next row to make things going back to normal. Does that make sense? See
It
what I mean?
does. I think you need to stitch a extra bead in between though? I wonder if that's what she's asking, because I'm kind of thinking that myself.
Okay.
So you can do that sort of with like you do with the
Sorry.
ladder stitch to begin
Right.
with. So let's say you've added a new bead and you've hooked it to your bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've gone up through that bead, and now you want to match the bead that's opposing it on the opposite
Right.
side. You want a gap. Then you can add a bead by doing the ladder stitch. Just simply looping,
Right.
add a bead and
Another.
looping through that, and then get your thread back where it needs to be, and then do your next one.
Yes.
That's my
Does that
question.
okay. Let's see. Cheri, can I play with yours?
Yes.
Okay. So let's try with Cheri's. That's great because you were at that point. And thank you for asking the question. Yes. I've got so many thread here. I was trying to find your needle. So I'm going to move those away.
I've got my tails. I've got 3 tails in there right now. Sorry.
And Cheri, I need some bead, please. So you had these and these. So I'm picking up these beautiful gold beads, and then I'm gonna go to the next
skip
here.
one.
Yes.
Mhm.
The thing that doesn't work is those beads are smaller. If I had a bigger 4 millimeters, I think that would work better. But let's see.
Claudia says, I love your videos.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. And then, okay. And going live, sometime we have mistakes. And I was like, okay. So you have to picture that the bead that I'm adding is a 4 millimeters and not a 3 millimeters. You're gonna see a big gap, but with the 4 millimeters, the gap won't be
They'd
as
be touching
much.
each other. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm gonna add, Cheri, I'm gonna just play with yours, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna add those 2 beads, and I think that will work actually without doing anything else. Like that. And sometimes I skip one bead. I skip only once. I don't need to skip every other beads. It's just because everything was too tight, so I really wanted to give some space, and sometimes once it's enough. But you see how it kind of line up together. It doesn't really
Yeah.
interfere with the
Yeah.
design. Oh, Cheri, your thread
think
is
it's
really long.
I know.
You can always increase the
Yes.
the row until it gets back to that width you
Exactly.
want.
So what's going to happen, because I skip, you automatically have a decrease here. So it's going to narrow a little, and then the next one do an increase, and then you will go back to
Mhm.
the width
Mhm.
of your bracelet. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cheri.
That's okay.
So let me know if you have other questions, but it doesn't interfere too much of how you have to place your bead and how you keep going with your bracelet. And I hope I answer your question. So now I'm going to add a button. And what you want is some kind of placing my button. There is a how do you call that, a shank? So I'm going to placing somewhere here. So I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be in the middle here. So I want to bring my thread to that middle here. And to do so, you just weave inside your bead. So that's why you need, you know, to keep a tail pretty long, because you're going to be weaving back and forth to add the button. Oh, I went too far. I went way up there. Okay. My needle was really long, so it just went up. That's okay. I want it to be in the middle. I want to be here. Okay, so now I'm going to add my button, and it's really easy. The only thing you have to do is just weave the thread in different beads. So my thread is coming out of that bead. I'm going to go back inside, and I will tighten my button like that. So now usually what I do is I go back inside the shank of the button, and I go through the same bead I went before, like that, and I tie. And I don't want to put too much pressure on that bead. I don't want to have my thread just going inside this bead, because you have to remember you're going to pull on this button quite often to put your bracelet and to take your bracelet off. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go to the inside the shank of the button. Oops. Inside here. And then instead of going inside the same bead, I'm going inside the next bead. There. And then, so let's see. I went inside the next bead. I'm gonna go, where is my thread? Inside that bead. And then going inside the shank of the button. So my purpose is to go inside different bead, to not use always the same bead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of spread the thread out among several beads.
Exactly. Like there. And you see,
Gives
I can
more support. Huh?
Yes. And you can see the thread here. I don't know if you can see, but remember, it's under your button. Nobody will see that thread on top of that bead. So you're kind of being more flexible with the button. So I went inside that bead. I'm thinking I'm gonna go to the next one. And you do that until you feel that your button is secure. So I'm going back inside the next one because I want to go inside the shank of my button. Like that here. I'm gonna go inside that bead, and you can go, several times. But I'm gonna stop here, and what I'm doing now, I'm just gonna weave my thread inside different beads. Remember, I don't make knots. I don't like making knots, but you want to make sure that your thread will never go out. So I came out of that bead. I'm gonna go to the next one and kind of make a loop around those two beads to secure my thread. I keep poking myself with that needle. That, and I'm going back in here. And what I do, sometimes I'm going through other beads and I just weave inside different beads. And I never had, there's a lot of thread in here, so I cannot go through that bead. I never had any trouble my work going undone because I'm not making knots. I just make sure that I weave through beads enough in circle, and then it's secure.
Terry's asking, how do we find this video later on your website? We're going to publish it out on the website, and then it will be should be on the homepage tomorrow, and it will be on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel.
Yes. So you will see that video, no problem. I know it's type of a video you need to watch several times for sure. Now I'm going to show you how to do the loop. So I went on the tail on the other side, and I'm going to thread. I have a thread here that I kept, and I want to finish with a loop. There, up. It's always a trouble with fire line, and
You have to bite it.
yes. Like I said, I usually use my I usually use my teeth, but okay, got it. So when you finish your bracelet, I have some bugle beads here, but then you really want to give yourself some normal rows of just, I don't want to say plain beads, but just the same type of beads. And I'm gonna make the loop, and my button is here, so I probably want my loop to start maybe from the second or the third bead. Since I'm up here, I need to go back inside that second bead, and I'm gonna go back outside that third bead. So now I'm gonna use, I'm thinking I'm gonna use some 11 art beads, or maybe, let's see, I need to choose. No, I'm gonna use those. So those are 8 art beads, and they should go nicely around. Yes. So what I do, I just thread several beads. I don't know yet how many beads I need. I'm gonna have to check with my button. So that's why you need to sew your button first, because that will let you know how many beads you need for your loop, how big your loop's gonna be. Okay, so I have that many beads, and what I do in general, I just go like that, and I look at my button. I think this is too small, so I'm gonna add some more. That, and what I do also, so here I have 1, 2 bead, 1, 2 bead, and I'm gonna go inside the third bead, and I just go that once, and I take my bracelet, and I'm gonna check if the button will go. So you have to pull on that thread to keep your beads together, and then I'm just checking if that holds right. Yes.
Nice.
That looks nice. Sometimes what I do also is you can put a, do we have a bead stopper? Let's put a bead stopper, because I need to see if it's gonna fit also on my wrist. So I'm putting a bead stopper here. It holds my thread pretty well, and I'm just gonna check directly on my hand and see if it goes right.
Pretty.
That's pretty, and yep, it's not too big, it's not too long. If it's too long, I could take a few beads out, but I think this is okay. And there we go. It's very important to check the loop with the button, and especially on your arm. Once I didn't do it, and my loop was way too small, and I have to take the loop apart because I cannot wear my bracelet.
Oh.
It's really a shame. I'm like, oh, I did all of this work. So your loop needs to be stiffer and more secure, and for me, doing just one thread inside the bead is not enough, so I like to go 2 or 3 times inside my bead. So to do this, you're just going to weave inside the beads here and go back in your loop. So my thread is coming out at the bottom of the bead. I'm going to go up to the next one. Oops, sorry, I'm kicking the camera. Go back down, up, and then going back down again. And then I need to go back in that loop, so I can go up in here and then go inside all my beads inside the loop. That. Let's see.
Claudia says it's beautiful.
Oh,
Isn't
thank
it pretty?
you. I hope you will try to make those necklaces, freeform brick stitch bracelets, sorry, because they are really fun and they are so unique. You know, not one of every time I make one, it's so different, and you can play with different beads and different style, different sizes, and this is why I really love it. And I pull, and I'm thinking, no, I want a little more strength in it, so I'm gonna go back inside that loop. Oops, sorry. The thing also that I like using the 8 art beads at the beginning is because you see how much time I go through that bead, and the size of the bead really give me the flexibility to go several times through the bead.
Yeah, larger bead hole.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going back here and then in here. Like that. I almost make the mistake. I missed that bead. So my thread would have been outside on the top of the beads. That happened sometime. You really have to make sure that your needle
Catch
goes.
all of them.
Yes. Like that. And so it feels really secure right now. So what I'm going to do is just weave my thread inside several beads. That's so I want to go, oops, sorry. I want to go down a little. So I'm going down to my work. And then so I'm going out of that bead. I'm going to go up. And then go down on that bead again. One thing I can give you a tip also. When you have a lot of thread, it tends to make a knot after a while because they all jangle together. So what I do a lot of time is I put my thumb right here on my thread and I push on it, and it kind of straight the thread, and so I'm putting my thumb here and it's guiding the thread, if I can say, and no knots are gonna form. So now I'm just gonna put my thumb here, there, and I'm gonna go back to that. So I'm making like rounds around my bead to secure my thread, and it should be secure now. There we go. And again, you know, to make sure, I'll just go to one more. And this is pretty much done, and I just have to cut my thread,
Nice.
and this is it.
Pretty.
Well, I made that bracelet before, but we were making this together. And Cheri, can we show you your start?
Yeah, this is what I've got going so far. I love the fire polish. Love the fire polish, how that looks in there, and these bugle beads, so pretty. So I'm excited to keep going, and I'm just really enjoying this a lot.
Oh, good.
This is really fun.
Oh, good, oh, good. Well, I hope you had fun.
Yeah.
Again, you can choose several type of beads. I love the idea to try with the 2 holes. I'm really thinking about it, how 2 holes will work, but I'm sure, I think I want to try.
Just have to do a little extra.
I think
moving
so.
around,
I
but-
think so. But it's really, really fun. Sorry. And how to start also, Cheri, you choose your colors from your button, and I choose my colors from the bugle beads. So I went with the color of the bugle beads, and then I was thinking, okay, what kind of colors do I want after? And one thing I forgot to mention also, when you do the bugle beads or when you do the crystal or fire polish, I like to have a bead that's contrast, and that makes the bugle bead pop even more. So play with contrast like that, play with different colors. It's really, really fun. I mean, even on this one that is black, I still play with gray and black and crystal. The same for this white one here. There's still a mix of colors to do some contrast in it.
Beautiful.
So I hope you have fun.
I did.
Good. And if you have other questions, please keep asking your questions. Becky and Katie are really good to answer them, and if they cannot find an answer, they just contact Cheri and I, and we can answer your questions. So thank you so much for joining us today. That was really fun to make those freeform bracelet bracelet, and thank you so much for watching Artbeads Cafe. And don't forget to subscribe to our email newsletter to see our promotion, to see our discount, to see our more videos like that. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir. À bientôt.
Bye bye.